Before Christopher Columbus discovered the so-called New World and the Europeans invaded North and South America, the continents were inhabited by indigenous tribes. Even if the native people of North America sometimes differed significantly in terms of culture and tradition, each ethnic group had its own collection of myths and legends that told of almost unbelievable creatures. But where do fiction and reality begin to merge? What is the real background of those terrifying beings that appear in the old stories? And did they possibly really exist? Together with you, we would like to take a closer look at this exciting topic today. You already gave us a thumbs up and a subscription and already activated the bell? Then let's get started. Stick around until the end to hear about one of the most disturbing prophecies the Native Americans ever shared. Can. Native Americans were not alone. A look at the ancient legends passed down through the generations reveals that the continent was once populated by fabulous creatures such as demons, ghosts, and dwarfs. One of the most terrifying figures to ever walk American soil is said to have gone by the name of Ea. According to Native American lore, the colossal figure always appears when a violent storm sweeps across the country. Ea then sets out to devour animals, humans, and even full-blown settlements. Since this monster's hunger is virtually insatiable, it will continue to eat until there is no trace of life around it. Ea has a power that seems unimaginable to us mere mortals. A quick snap of your fingers is enough to create blizzards, hurricanes, and devastating thunderstorms. Meanwhile, Ea always travels with him in his magically decorated tent in the eye of the storm, so that he can feast on the elemental chaos. However, the question of what shape the creature has is anything but easy to answer. The old tales say that Ea often has neither a face, let alone even a body. When the Lord of Storms isn't unleashing brutal mischief on the world, he's said to live at the bottom of the sea with his mother, Unk. However, as a ruler of the North and shepherd of the Northern Lights, Ea also faces a number of enemies, most notably Okja, the king of the South. White Giants. Basically, every Indian tribe has its own mythology. Things get all the more exciting when several groups independently report on the same creatures, as in the case of the White Giants. In detail, the White Giants are said to be an extinct race that reached unimaginable proportions. In contrast to the giants that appear in other mythologies, these colossi were not brutal and simple-minded, but extremely skilled in many aspects. At home in what is now the state of Tennessee, the White Giants are said to have clashed with their human contemporaries. With a traditional height of more than 3 meters, our species has probably lost out in a fight. Despite their great wealth and intelligence, the giants also had a pronounced fondness for the flesh of their victims. In 1857, the Indian chief Big Thunder reported that countless moons ago, the realm of the giants stretched across the entire horizon. The cities of the mighty people of giants would have been situated on the tops of the mountains, where they watched over the landscape like ominous shadows. After the giants had succeeded in dethroning the previous rulers, they were to surpass all later peoples. The chief said of the Europeans, who later spread to North America and brought untold suffering to the natives, compared to the White Giants, they were dwarfs, both in culture and in their weaponry. The end of the giants. However, given the absolute power that the White Giants possessed, a fundamental question arises. Why is there no trace of the colossi today? Well, in this regard, the indigenous tales say that the giants eventually fell victim to their own pride. While the White Giants continued to strive for wealth and control, values such as mercy and justice steadily receded into the background. So it was that the Great Spirit decided to put an end to the immoderate activities of the White Giants and to wipe them out of the world. All that remains today of the tribe's existence are the mysterious hill structures on the plateaus. The search for the truth. But how can these breathtaking legends be placed on a plausible context? This question was also addressed by researcher Dr. Donald Panther Yates. One of his publications states, The Comanches report that the white giants ruled a gigantic territory, dwarfing all other tribes. Aggressive and fearless, they developed advanced mining technology. They also owned numerous slaves and maintained strongholds across the continent. Originally at home in Peru, the Colossuses one day migrated to North America by ship, where they terrified the natives with their massive, grotesquely distorted skulls. Eventually, Yates concluded, the gigantic creatures were wiped out or returned to the heavens from which they came. Terrifying tales. One thing is certain, if something like the white giants really existed, it should also be possible to prove their former existence archaeologically. And indeed, stories about gigantic skeleton finds that simply cannot be classified in a comprehensible context are circulating on the internet again and again. As early as 1899, Horatio Bardwell Cushman wrote, Choctaw lore tells of a giant race that once inhabited what is now the state of Tennessee and involved the ancestors of the Indians in bloody battles. Years later, many people translated this text to simply mean white people. Originally, however, this could only have meant those giants with the radiant white face. Since the Choctaw recognized the enormous danger posed by the Colossuses, they were said to have ambushed them at every opportunity in order to kill them from ambush. Another 350 years before Cushman's report, Pedro Ciza de Leon also wrote about a powerful giant people reported by the Peruvian Manta Indians. According to the natives, the giants were at home on the coasts in the distant past. The white giants navigated the waters aboard boats as large as full-size ships. A full-grown man would have been no higher than the knees of these figures. Lovelock Cave. At this point, let's jump to Nevada and look at a disturbing myth of Lovelock's Cave. If we look at the details of this story, it seems that there could be a connection to the mysterious tribe of white giants. For example, a tale of a group of red-haired, white-skinned giants has been passed down the ranks of the Paiute tribe for generations. Referred to as Site-Ka by the indigenous people, the Colossi were vicious, harsh, and cannibalistic. And although the giants were hopelessly outnumbered by the Indians, they still posed a serious threat to them. In a bloody battle, the Indians finally managed to push the giants back and force them into a narrow tunnel shaft. After the creatures holed up in Lovelock Cavern, the Paiute began piling up dry leaves in front of the entrance and setting them on fire. Ultimately, all giants are said to have fallen victim to the flames. Basically, this story is classified by most experts in the realm of fictional myths and legends. However, those who believe in the authenticity of the reports point to some unexplained finds previously recorded at Lovelock Cave. Archaeological evidence. Although the battle between the Paiute and the giants is said to have occurred hundreds of years ago, it was not until 1924 that Lovelock Cave in Nevada once again became the center of archaeological interest. Shortly before, some miners entered the forgotten cavity to collect the bat guano there. This fine-grained powder, formed when excrement weathers on calcareous soil, has traditionally been used as fertilizer. In the course of their guano harvest, the men finally came across some unexplicable relics, the discovery of which they reported to the official authorities shortly afterwards. The University of California did not hesitate and arranged for a professional excavation of the site. All in all, about 10,000 artifacts should come back to light. While these are mostly tools, weapons, and everyday objects, the researchers also found 60 mummies. Among them were two bodies that were unusually large, a 2-meter-tall woman and a 2.5-meter-tall man. What's more, just like it was described in the old tales, the giant mummies also had fiery red hair. Critics state that hair color most likely changed only after death as a result of chemical processes. In addition, the reported body sizes were simply wrong. Assuming that was indeed the case, what about the 16-inch sandal that was also recovered in Lovelock Cave? To classify, this roughly corresponds to a shoe size 62. Only the ancestors of the Paiute Indians probably knew what the true background of these finds and old stories was all about, but unfortunately, they can no longer tell us about it today. Wendigo. These large white behemoths were not the only things that terrified Native Americans. Many natives also passed down legends of a mythical creature known as the Wendigo. The Wendigo legend originates from the Algonquin-speaking tribes of North America, which include nations like the Pequot, Narragansett, and Wampanoag of New England. It is typically described as an ice-covered cannibalistic man-beast. The Wendigo legend also appears in Canadian First Nations folklore from the Ojibwe, Chippewa, Potawatomi, and Cree. According to some tribal cultures, the Wendigo is a wholly evil entity similar to the boogeyman. Others say the Wendigo beast is actually a possessed human who was taken over by evil spirits as punishment for committing misdeeds such as selfishness, gluttony, or cannibalism. Once a troublesome human is turned into a Wendigo, little can be done to save them. Native American folklore claims that the Wendigo stalks the woods at night in the dead of winter, seeking out human flesh to devour and luring prey with its unsettling ability to imitate human voices. Disappearances of tribal members or other forest inhabitants were often attributed to the doings of the Wendigo. The physical appearance of this monstrous beast differs between legends. The Wendigo is typically depicted as a 15-foot tall figure with an emaciated, gaunt body that symbolizes its ravenous appetite for human flesh. In his book, The Manatus, First Nation Canadian author and scholar Basil Johnson described the Wendigo as a gaunt skeleton that gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. Tribes have passed down the Wendigo legend for many years. One of the most famous versions of this myth tells the story of a Wendigo monster that was defeated by a little girl who boiled tallow and threw it all over the creature, making it small and susceptible to attack. While the vast majority of alleged Wendigo sightings occurred between the 1800s and 1920s, claims of the flesh-eating monster man still surface around the Great Lakes territory every so often. In 2019, it was believed that the infamous man-beast was to blame for mysterious howls that hikers in the Canadian wilderness claim to have heard. Scholars believe that this Native American monster is a manifestation of real-world problems like starvation and violence. Its connection to the possession of a sinful human may also symbolize how these communities perceive certain taboos or negative behavior. One thing is certain, these monsters are capable of changing their appearance. There are some lines that people may cross that can transform them into a hideous being, as some Native American myths imply. As Johnson wrote, turning Wendigo can become an ugly reality when one resorts to devastation in the face of adversity. Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are animalistic humanoid creatures chronicled in the centuries-old folklore of various Native American tribes in the United States Southwest, most notably the Navajo, Pueblo, Apache, and Hopi peoples. It is one of many creatures that can change their forms from Native American folklore. Typical descriptions of skinwalkers include their beastly and deformed bodies, marred by humanoid faces and fiery orange-red eyes. But the origins of these creatures differ among tribal cultures. Traditions claim that powerful medicine men who gave in to the desire to use their gifts for evil were known as skinwalkers. The skinwalkers, according to other legends, are the punishment for any man, woman, or child who performs a serious sin. In any event, indigenous groups are familiar with the myth of the skinwalkers. These Native American creatures are said to be extremely strong and almost eternal. They can only be killed with a bullet or knife dipped in white ash, a bit reminiscent of a shapeshifter from popular culture, the werewolf, and its weakness to silver bullets. Speaking openly about skinwalkers is allegedly frowned upon in indigenous cultures. According to Navajo culture, mentioning these spherical beings brings bad luck and increases the likelihood of their appearance. As a result, Navajo people are hesitant to discuss skinwalkers with outsiders. However, the terrifying Native American legend spread to the general population. A tale about a Utah family traumatized by chilling occurrences at their ranch, including the mysterious slaughter of their livestock, which was discovered dead with odd mutilations, was published in 1996, The Desert News. Eyewitnesses claimed to have seen an unidentifiable animal that was incredibly agile and made hellish noises. Strange things persisted on the ranch after the family moved. The property is now known as Skinwalker Ranch and is a notorious hotbed for paranormal activity. Since that time, skinwalkers have appeared more frequently in popular culture. The terrifying events connected with these beasts are depicted on HBO's The Outsider, based on the Stephen King book, and investigated in The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, a documentary series on the History Channel. It's essential to note that despite the Navajo people's understandable reluctance to discuss them with outsiders, public comprehension of these Native American monsters is inadequate. The misappropriation of such lore by non-Native authors can have a negative effect on the Native communities is one reason, according to Native scholar Adrienne Keene. Rowling has rewritten these customs from scratch. Traditions that originated from a specific context, location, understanding, and truth, Keene wrote, in reference to author J.K. Rowling's awkward incorporation of the Navajo tale into a Harry Potter spin-off. These are not so-called misunderstood wizards, definitely not by any means. What do you think? Are the numerous stories simply made-up legends, or is it possible that the giants actually existed? As always, let us know your thoughts, suggestions, and feedback on today's video in the comments below. If you're already there, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to stay up to date from now on. And with that, thanks for watching, have a good one, and see you next time.